What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jack Ramsays pregame show. Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague, Dallas the puppy. It is a three-person show tonight because the puppy is just not letting anything slide. She wants all of the attention.
Full disclosure for the community tonight. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll tell you right now, Danny might not say it or show it. He is pissed right now. He is just holding it together for the podcast.
Yes, entirely. I was getting everything ready, and the second you got in the room, she decided she wanted all of the attention in the world. And it's the one period of time where she doesn't get all the attention in the world because she's the most spoiled COVID puppy on the face of the planet. And I love her dearly. Don't I, little bear? Yes, I do. But we are going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks and Portland Trail Blazers, who are both coming off back-to-back games. Obviously, the Blazers lost to the Timberwolves in a close fashion. Whoa. Was hoping Danny would have a real dog. You know what? You can kiss my ass. It's a real dog. I've had 50-pound Nova Scotian duck-tolling retrievers for a long time, but this is the compromise, the 16-pound Chewini poo. My wife.
Is it possible the dog's jealous of me?
Could be.
She sees you talking, interacting with somebody or something different. So
she's
it's like
a COVID puppy, so she's not used to sharing at all. We took her to the dog park for the first time and let her see other dogs. Was that Saturday? Mm-hmm. I think it was Saturday. I have one a quarter mile away, and I gimped down there. That was not a good idea. But I digress. It was fun because she got to go do all of the things and calm down, which I wish she would do right now. But instead, she's going to turn into a 16-pound weight on my shoulder. While the Blazers lost a close game to the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Dallas Mavericks got absolutely boat raced in the Bay last night. They just got juiced. The downside of that is the Blazers, who they had, played heavy minutes. The Mavericks, while traveling, did not. Luka and KP both played 26 minutes. They didn't get burned out. Also, Luka's a freak. He's been a fat boy pretty much his entire career and somehow plays 44 a night. So, and I mean that the most complimentary fashion. He has never been a guy who has ever been in real shape and is still one of the 4 or 5 best players on the planet, which is kind of gross because if he ever figures out the whole, this shit's a whole lot easier if I'm just in shape, the league's screwed.
Well, I think that's the thing is ever since he got in the league and even before he was in the league, he's long been considered the next right?
He's a prodigy. He is the legit prodigy in the LeBron lineage.
Absolutely. He was 16 playing in a pro league. That dude started at a young age and everybody looks at him and says, you're on the scale of LeBron, of Larry Bird, of Duncan. You're one of those franchise dudes that a lot of people think is going to win a championship or multiple championships. I'm with you. If he can start to get in shape, maybe get a regiment. I remember reading a thing back, I want to say it was a few weeks ago, that when he goes home, that's the problem. He's a king. He eats like a king. He lives like a king.
Luka Doncic is a real thing.
Absolutely. And I think if he can hone that in and, get some control or put himself in a different situation, I'm with you. It's hard not to see a guy like that being able to dominate. Hasn't been able to get the first round yet, but that's kind of the next step for, I think, a player of that caliber. It's take a couple lumps and then be right back. But I hate this matchup tonight. It's not just because Portland's not a great team. It's because Dallas got their ass kicked. Luka didn't play, and Portland expended everybody. They're not going to have Cov. They're not going to have Nas. It was a bad matchup to begin with. It's an even
and now they're missing the 2 people that were going to spend the most time on Luka Doncic, and now Norman Powell and CJ McCollum are going to get cooked.
I think Ellaby's going to guard him a ton tonight.
I don't know how many minutes Ellaby's really going to be able to be on the floor.
Really?
Are they gonna, is CJ Ellaby going to cut into Norman Powell's minutes?
They might have to, though. They might just run it small. You got out big the last time.
Oh, the problem is they need to keep Nurk on the floor for a fair amount of time. Remember, this team came in here and got absolutely punked by Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh, yeah.
Just downright wrecked. They didn't have Luka that night. If they get that version of KP and they don't have any answers for Luka Doncic? This could go sideways in a hurry. When I saw the spread, I was actually a little bit surprised. I was like, really? That's surprising. How is it that close? Like, I know both teams are on a back-to-back, but let's go ahead and take a look. When you take a look at this Dallas Mavericks team, Brandon, what is it you're looking for outside of Luka and KP?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know. I kind of want to see if their role guys can contribute the way that they did the last time they kicked Portland's ass, because they were without a couple guys in that game, right? Wasn't it? Luka was out. Who else was?
Dwight Powell kicked their ass, but they didn't.
Dwight Powell dominated.
They did not have Maxi Kleber either. So,
that's who it was. Yeah, yes. Maxi was out, but
who was a very, very underrated player.
Well, and Timmy Hardaway's not going to play tonight.
Timmy Hardaway shut down for the season, most likely.
Yeah, he broke his foot.
The fracture that he had is the same fracture I think Dorian Finney-Smith had. There's somebody else on that team that had the same fracture. But just as an idea, guys, so if anybody hasn't kept up with the Mavs recently, they've kind of found themselves. They're 7-3. They were 7-2 going into that game against the Warriors. Here's what they're looking at. You're getting 27, 11, and 8 from Luka. The two things that haven't really happened for them recently are that Luka and KP haven't been able to hit threes, both awful from three. 24% from Luka, 39 or 30% for KP, which means they're both going to find their form against Portland. We know how this works. But here's the other part of this. Jalen Brunson, who realistically his season statistics, Brandon, they stack up very much the same with Anthony Simons' season statistics, even though obviously Ant's usage has spiked, which has kind of seen that rise. But on the season, he's like 16-5. Mm-hmm. He's a really good player, and they're looking to shop him because they're not going to have the money to pay him because they have $20 million invested in Tim Hardaway. They've got a max invested in Luka Doncic. They've got $30+ million invested in Kristaps Porzingis, and they've got money to Powell, money to Colbert. They got a decent deal in Finney-Smith, but like they don't really make a ton of financial sense right now. But the big thing is that offense that's been there, it's been okay. Their defense, they have figured it out defensively, which nobody saw coming because last year they had the best offense in NBA history. And we talk about the Warriors doing this and the Suns doing this and the Bucks doing that. If they're healthy, if they are healthy against the Clippers last year, maybe they're the team in the Western Conference Finals. Maybe they're the team in the NBA Finals to the West. But they aren't healthy. Luka's out of his mind, and he has played 14 playoff games in his career, Brandon, all against the Clippers, and he's damn near averaging a triple-double in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, he single-handedly kept them alive in the bubble, and then you go last year, they were up 3-1 in that series. I remember because I was in Bend, I watched that, what was it? It would have been game 4, annihilated them. And everybody staying in the house looked around, was like,
oh, it's his turn.
The Mavs are going to just demolish the Clippers like this. This is Luka's time. And then they blew the series. Brunson and is a good matchup tonight. I did want to touch on something you mentioned there because you talked a little bit about their roster. That's easily been their weirdest part in this Luka experience, and I would even say late Dirk experience.
They haven't made a ton of sense.
It hasn't. And I know Kid is, very questionable for a lot of people. I think it's fair in the realm of what this is to say maybe he had some effect or touch or whatever that is for their defense to have such a turnaround. But
I don't want to give him credit, but at the same time,
right.
I lean more towards, especially on the defensive side of things. I lean more towards assistant coaches.
Sure,
that's typically how it goes. My view on coaches. It's like
I know
there is a component of it. I don't think there's a lot of it, and even then, when you're talking about heavy scheme stuff, I lean more towards assistant coaches because those are typically the guys. Head coaches are managing egos, but if you want to give Kid his credit, like I'm not going to fight you or anybody else on it. It is what it is.
It's not that big of a deal, but I think overall, that's always stood out to me, and it's stood out for 6-7 years now. Right, this predates Luka. It's like, what's the roster like? I don't know. There's just KP's the second best player on this team.
Yeah. He is.
And but you can only rely on him for so many games a year. So it's just
both health and production. Like he
can go up and down.
They're in a weird spot. And unfortunately yes and no, and unfortunately. they made a move and thought, hey, maybe we can kind of replicate this whole Dirk thing. Get a 7-foot European that's just a nightmare matchup unicorn. Because KP's first couple years in the league with the Knicks, defensively, he checked out. Like, he ticked boxes. He doesn't anymore because he's lost mobility. Again, Kirk Henderson and God, who covers the Mavs? He's the editor-in-chief for Mavs Moneyball for SB Nation. But there's somebody else. Oh, Sharks. Jonathan Sharks of The Ringer. Brought me to an article I think maybe Dan Devine wrote last year, and it charted all of KP's lower body injuries. Yep. And it was like 17 different lower body injuries in the last 2.5 years, which at 7'3" is a terrifying proposition. And that puts the Mavs in this situation where it's like, well, we can't really move him and get value back. Sound familiar, Portland fans?
Well, they've had more success, and they got Luka, so like they have an advantage here.
Yes.
But a way to kind of tie it with Portland that I would say, just how I viewed it, I view them as if they're Portland in free agency. Every single year I have to hear about Dallas wants this player, and Dallas is interested, and Giannis is going to go to Dallas.
They geared their books. I was literally talking to Dallas guys about this 2 nights ago. They geared their books. The way everything is supposed to come off their books this year was for impending Giannis free agency.
But they do this all the time. And guess what? It never ends up happening. So they become Portland. They give out these contracts to players that are like, man,
you pay a little too much because you get a little overextended. And this is kind of a weird situation because you're Texas, you're Dallas, you've got a superstar, you've got an owner who gives a shit.
I don't get it. I've never gotten it. I can't believe they don't get anybody.
Like it is kind of a weird situation because like if I'm an NBA free agent and Texas is on the table, Spurs? Whatever.
I don't want to live in San Antonio. No.
I'm not a Houston guy. Dallas is a dope city. Like if I was ever leaving Portland in the metro area, Dallas is high on my list of places to go. Like you can live like a king down there, let alone if you're a millionaire, you're tax-free in the sun, middle of the country, like it's warm 98% of the time. Like it's for the millionaire class, it's a good spot to go. And yet for some reason,
what is it? Like,
I think they've screwed up the books. Like in they remember they got the Dirk discount. Yeah. And they tried to make things happen. And then it was like, oh crap. And they had the Chandler Parsons, Tyson overextending on Chandler Parsons and Tyson Chandler. Yep. They have tried, obviously. They tried to home run swing with KP.
Yeah, I respect that too because they couldn't get anybody in free agencies. They said this is our next best avenue. It's go get the young 27-3-year-old dude. I respect that.
And what I think is going to end up happening is they'll get to a last year in his deal, they'll flip him, and then they're gonna really tie a tight knot around Luka Doncic with that rope as far as like keeping him with the franchise because they don't want to do that. And I don't think Luka's going to go anywhere. There's been hints of like, oh, well, I don't know. He switched agents and maybe Dallas isn't for him. They have managed this relationship as good as you can, and Luka immediately signed that deal.
Yeah.
And I don't look at this as like a Zion or Anthony Davis, like I don't want to be here kind of situation where both have kind of popped up in New Orleans, and we've seen that from other stars. I think Luka is going to end up because he followed Dirk, is going to be in that same vein. But they need to fix some things, and they aren't in a position to because, again, they 5-year deal to Tim Hardaway Jr., a big deal to Kristaps Porzingis. They handed out this is not quite 2016 Portland Trailblazers, but they did hand out too much money to too many dudes too early. And that put them in a weird position. And again, that's why they're kind of looking at where they are with Jalen Brunson right now. Let's go ahead and pull up. I want to double check the injury report because I believe we should have the final now. One update. Dennis Smith Jr. was questionable. He is out.
Yeah.
So for the Portland Trail Blazers tonight, Dennis Smith Jr., Nassir Little, Robert Covington, Damian Lillard, Larry Nance Jr., and Cody Zeller are all out. So for those keeping track at home, that is 3 starters, your 6th and 8th man, and your backup center. The Blazers will have 2 starters tonight that were their opening night starters, and CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic. Tony Snell will be starting at the 4, and Norman Powell will be starting at the 3.
I love it.
So you have a 6'4" point guard. You have a 6'2" guard. You have a 6'3" forward. You have a 6'7"
who can't move.
Who really doesn't.
He can't move.
He's kind of stiff. Let's be honest.
He's a statue.
And then you have Yusuf Nurkic.
Yes. Trying
to wall off against Jalen Brunson, who is like Yogi Ferrell on steroids. For anyone recalling the night Yogi Ferrell got an actual NBA contract against Portland Trail Blazers.
10-day Yogi got a 2-year deal after that game.
I mean, when you drop a 30 bomb on somebody like that, that's what happens.
Yep.
And then remember, Porzingis spread the floor and annihilated them. Now they've got Kleber back. Because the only guys out for the Mavs after they got their ass kicked in the injury department to start this season and COVID, Sterling Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, Tim Hardaway Jr. certainly hurts them. But I think the Blazers could overcome a Tim Hardaway Jr. They cannot overcome the rest of this lineup. This will be ugly.
I mean, I think it really is. Like, this is going to be a bad game.
Yeah, and that's where I got a little bit surprised. I'm going to get into it a little bit earlier, but I want to highlight this because Daniel just brought this up. I had it going on the other screen. Yeah. The Charlotte Hornets have 148 points in a game right now with 5 minutes to go against the Pacers.
148?
Yeah, Kelly Oubre has 39. Pretty Kelly has 39.
Is this why Caitlin Cooper just signed off of Twitter for a couple weeks? Jeez, man.
She signed off because of all of the discourse around the Pacers right now because she just wants to talk basketball.
I know, but when you get stuck in those situations, it stops being about basketball and starts becoming business and trades.
Yep, and you have an owner that comes out and says some things they probably shouldn't.
Boy.
I want to get off track from this game for just a split second and kind of address a little bit of the stuff that you had Jake Fischer on this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And for those that missed the interview this morning on 1080 The Fan with you and Dirt, can you kind of tie a bow on or summarize what he had to say?
So he said a lot. Portland, obviously, it's Jack Ramsay's podcast, so let's just stick with Portland here. Portland, he basically said they're active. He reiterated again Miles Turner commitment type stuff, like they really are in on Miles Turner. The foot injury is a little weary for them. We mentioned Ant. Jokingly, like, hey, you think they would look to move? He basically just kind of reiterated what was said on this pod of they would only look to move him. And he said he had just spoken to somebody in Portland. He was like, I literally just spoke to somebody. They will only trade him for a piece that will put Damian Lillard in championship contention. With that, I would assume that's a Jaylen Brown, a Bradley Beal, those kind of all NBA but up-and-coming all-star type players. Other than that, he says he expects Portland to keep him. They are very high on him. What the future of that is for this franchise, I don't know, but that's a national voice kind of chiming in with where Portland kind of is right now with the trade stuff.
And the other one was obviously CJ McCollum and being linked to New Orleans again.
He's expendable. Jake had said, because of the way Ant played, not that this is breaking news, but because of the way Ant's playing, CJ has become expendable. They are currently shopping CJ McCollum. Actively shopping for anybody who was wondering. And this is the same thing that if you watched the post-game show last night that I was kind of talking about. And this, and not that anybody needs to know this, but obviously this tracks. Jake is much more plugged in than I am. But if I'm hearing it too, it's noisy. That's kind of where we sit with that stuff right now. Yeah. Let's bring it back to this game. Brandon, have you looked at the spread? I have not. I was actually looking forward to that part of the podcast. This is what the jacked up line of the night. Where do you think it landed? If I was an odds maker making this line, knowing who's playing, who's not, I would say Dallas minus 8.5. It is Blazers plus 5. 5.
Dallas is going to cover that line.
Why is it 5?
I have no idea.
Are they expecting Luka to play like dog shit again?
I mean,
they killed this team without Luka. I don't track that, but I guess we can eat crow in the post game if we're wrong. I'm taking Dallas all night. They're going to win this game by 10. I might do the alternative spread thing again.
That didn't work out for you last time, though.
It did. It was 10 to 12.
That's right. You did.
Remember
That's right. You did.
At the end and they
that's
lost
right.
by 10.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. You needed that shot to fall. That's right.
I needed that shot to fall. I was like,
God.
shit, that's gone.
And then yeet. Obviously, I missed the.
What's the over under?
218. 217.5, baby. Same game parlay.
What's going on with that?
I same game parlayed this.
That's red flags though, right? Like that's kind of like a what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, I same game parlayed this, and I took the Mavs to cover. I took the over, and then I took. Let me pull it up real quick. The over on Anthony Simons points. He is not going to lay an egg again tonight.
What's his over under?
18.5.
Oh, same number. I'm in. Why don't you just add that to the parlay?
That's what I did.
Oh, okay. I love it.
That was the 3-way.
God bless that 3-way. That's a 3-way I get excited for.
I saw that and I was like, there's nothing in this that I don't like. So
it's the only 3-way I can handle. I'll tell you that much. I'm not that kind of guy.
So
too much pressure.
Yeah, we'll stay away.
Okay. Not me and you, pal. Not me and you.
Connor Strong says, what about CJ for THJ and Dwight Powell or THJ and Finney-Smith? The Blazers have shown interest in Dorian Finney-Smith. I do know that.
I like Dorian Finney-Smith. I think he's a good role player.
And as far as Tim Hardaway Jr., the Blazers are not going to be interested in him
too much money
now because he's number one, he's too much money. Number two, he's a little too inconsistent. Number three, he plays the position that Anthony Simons plays mostly. Yeah. And beyond that, they don't need another injured guy. They just and you don't like to force that issue. He's not good enough to justify that, whereas a guy like I think like Miles Turner, while scarier at that size, if you trust the medicals, you can kind of be like, okay, you can talk yourself into it. And again,
you're not worried about that at all, by the way, big man with a foot injury?
No, because he hasn't had a history of foot injuries.
Okay.
He said, listen, when you're 6'10" and above, you have like if you give me 65 games a year, I'm usually pretty good. I'm like, the thing is, you got to just have a backup big that makes sense. And unfortunately for the Blazers this season, Cody Zeller. We touched on it a little bit. For those that didn't know, Cody Zeller is shut down for basically the year. His return time is 8 to 10 weeks, and if you ramp up off of that, you have 2 to 4 weeks for ramp up. You're looking at the end of the year. He has most likely played his last game for the Portland Trail Blazers, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him dealt, to be honest. Yeah,
it's an expiring contract. Why not?
It's an expiring contract, and if you absolutely need it to get below the salary tax or luxury tax floor, they could stumble right into that, kick a second-round pick out for that. And for anybody else wondering about Tim Hardaway Jr., the Mavericks and Blazers did have discussions in the offseason about a sign-and trade for Norman Powell for Tim Hardaway Jr. So those things have kind of taken place. I know the Mavs want to be active and try to shift the deck chairs around, but beyond that, I don't know. On the Turn Your Bull says, just turn in. Y'all seem glum today. Oh, I'm good.
I'm in a great mood.
Yeah, I'm other than the fact that my hip is absolutely killing me, I'm fine, which is why I'm here in the pregame show. And we will have a postgame show. I told Brandon, what time do you want to go tonight, man? He goes, 6. I'm like, cool, because I need a nap. I'm at the point where I'm exactly 3 weeks away from my surgery. I did something stupid around the house, lifted something that was far too heavy, and I've caused myself way too much pain. And so outside of walking around my house and walking around very minimally at work, I'm trying to limit how much I'm moving.
Well, for that person that said we look down, like, that's just my face.
Yeah, I have a resting asshole face.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, everybody thinks I'm mad at them or I'm I'm like eyeing them. I'm just like, no, it's just my face. Like, that's a genetic problem.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it goes. Joey asks, who's better for the Blazers, Jabari Smith or Chet? I think the top end of Jabari Smith makes more sense. Chet could turn into a guy. Like, I think it's easier to build around a guy who's maybe the best big man shooter since Kevin Durant. I hate putting that label on him because KD was a different dude.
Right.
And to be honest, Jabari had his worst game of his career yesterday, the day before. I think he went 1 of 14. It was a rough game. But he's a monster. As it pertains to the Blazers tonight, we haven't really talked about it too much. For the Blazers, obviously a lot of guys out, but two in particular. Nassir Little out with a left shoulder strain, and Robert Covington, right knee grade 1 MCL strain. Overall, neither guys are too much to be worried about. According to Chauncey Billups, he says that Norman Powell and Tony Snell will start in their place, but he also believes that Robert Covington and Nassir Little do not have serious or long-term concerns. The exact words were nothing major in either case. I reached out for confirmation. I think they're going to get further observations on Nassir just to make sure. And to be honest, Covington's had a rough week, man. He got hit below the belt. He had his finger dislocated the other night, and then he hyperextended his knee in a way that didn't look good. For everybody, I saw somebody ask if they were worried about his trade value. Unless he gets hurt, his trade value is his trade value.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to start wondering, like, if you're going to deal him in the next week or two, should you keep playing him?
Which
you're potentially going to cost yourself a deal. Like, Cleveland reportedly after him, Utah's reportedly after him. Who is the third team?
The Lakers are interested. The
Lakers
Bucks are interested.
Yeah.
There's about a half dozen teams that are like legitimately interested, and that list grows when Jeremy Grant gets traded. When every team who thinks they can get him is gone, and then it kind of goes down that list.
But I can't fathom he plays for any of those teams and isn't getting minutes. Hence, do you want to keep risking him getting injured before you trade him?
Which I wonder if
there's a little inflammation.
Little inflammation, yeah. Inflammation, baby. All of a sudden, everyone's got inflammation everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a delicate time of the season. I spoke to a bunch of people over the last, I don't know, probably 6-7 hours today, and there's this like growing like feel of like, can we just get to the deadline and be done with it? And I get it. I
can feel that.
I want to know what the real move is. Like, can they legitimately move off CJ McCollum? Can they get some things done that allow guys like Ant and Nas to, I mean, let's make it clear. If there's no CJ McCollum, guess what happens to that pecking order? It's locked in. Mm-hmm. There's no more deferring. There's no more, we got to make sure somebody stays happy. And
Right.
It's just gone. And I think you saw a bit of that when Carmelo Anthony left the team. I think you saw a bit of that with CJ and Dame both out. And that's not, I think it's a different thing between Dame and CJ, obviously. But it's just kind of where they end up sitting right now. Is there anything else in this game that you're really looking at, or anything from Ant playing alongside Norm? Anything more from Nurk?
I mean, I don't really have much, to be honest with you, man. Like, I saw the game this morning. Like, I was reading a couple things, and I'm just like, they're gonna get annihilated tonight.
You're thinking Luka, cool.
Yeah, I mean, Luka's here. There you go. That's all you kind of need to know. I'll be curious to see the response from Nurk. He had an off shooting night. I thought he played great. His effort was fantastic. He just couldn't hit a bucket.
Yeah.
Norm didn't get any shots. He's going to get that now. How many is he going to shoot? And then Ant, you said you're
I'm
betting
setting the line at 13.5 for Norm.
I'll take the over, and you're betting the over of Ant points. I need to add that to mine. Just kind of general, like, bounce back, playing a good team. Can you keep this competitive the way you have the last 2 weeks? I mean, again, these teams that they've been beating. I mean, to beat Brooklyn with Kyrie and KD with that team, that's actually really impressive. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it was an off night or not doesn't matter. Like, you played that well. Can you do that tonight against the team that dominated you last time?
And maybe there's a little bit of that, and that's why we're seeing some of the line action the way that it is.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. We will be here for the post-game show, and then we'll have the live show tomorrow. So if you have questions, folks, you can either send them in and we'll kind of like preload them from the live show tomorrow afternoon, or you can just join us on the live show. And if you're not part of the community already, please like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. We are growing. We are on our way to 2,500. I sent a post out the other day. It is crazy that we went from nothing to something we are in what month? Real month, November, December, January. It's been 4 months. 4 months from, I think we had 98 subs when I launched the channel, like officially, to 2,500. That is so crazy that it's hard to kind of wrap my head around. So thank you all so very much for that. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's free. It helps us beat the almighty algorithm. If you want to become a member and join the watch party, which we will have going here in just a few minutes, please head on over to the YouTube channel, click the community, and join. It's $2.99, and we get all the access to the watch parties, and then beyond that, we have some drawings for some tickets. We have some prints and some other stuff to give away, and a bunch of other things that I'm excited to kind of juice the community with. Well,
and I think to add to that, Danny, like we've talked about this behind the scenes, but just to reiterate, you become a member. I think we would probably wait till after Danny's surgery at this point, but I think we're planning to start doing some podcasts that exclusively just go.
Yeah, we will have some members-only stuff.
Section.
And also, I am turning on a exclusive period. So you guys will have early access to interviews and stuff like that. So I have the Ant and Nas interviews that are scheduled here for in the next week or so. That will go up when I'm under the knife and down for the week. And when those go live, you guys will have access to that stuff earlier and earlier. So thank you all so very much. We really appreciate you. You are the best, and we couldn't do this without you. So thank you all. If you want to become, or if you're going to see in the watch party, we'll catch you there. If not, we'll catch you for the post-game show. Until then, you can find us on social media at Brandon Sprague, at Danny Marang, at Jack Ramsays,